Okay, you can see here, this is the mounting strip that I used on the side. It's just a piece of 25mm angled 1.5mm aluminium. And I used the existing holes, as you can see here, where the perspex was originally mounted to the frame. So I haven't had to do anything to modify the frame of the Bigneat here, just basically drill the aluminium at the necessary points. And these are just small bolts that go straight through into the filter housing. Again, it's important to make sure these bolts aren't too long, because you need to make sure that you can still get the filter in and out from within the housing. As you can see, I used 25mm angle here, and I used 50mm angle to come across here, and I used a 50mm piece as a strengthener that comes right down the length of the hood from the top to the bottom of that panel. There were originally side ports in these perspex windows. You'll probably have a circular piece cut out of the window somewhere around this point. I've actually put perspex pieces over this with sealed purling tape on the inside to act as an airtight seal. And I'll show you what I did the other side to actually mount some electronics into those cut out circles. The important thing to remember is that the perspex panels throughout the hood are not airtight, and in order to make them airtight you need to add some sealing tape. I use purling tape, which is the cheapest probably alternative to any other types of seal, and you can really tighten the panels up quite tightly on the purling tape and get a really good seal, and it's quite thick. You also need to ensure that you seal the threads on the bolts as you put them in, either with a bit of silicone sealant, or you can seal them once they're in on the back edge, which is what I did for most of the panels except the final panel that I put in. So you can see the white strip of purling tape that was used. You just make sure it's a good seal in the corners, and that goes right the way around the framework of each of the panels, and you'll see it as I go around to the other side. And I use the purling tape on this side also, so you can see that purling tape all the way around, sealing all of those panels in. The next thing that I did was I modified some ports to allow to get the RS232 connections through the port, and I used the existing hole that was in the 8mm perspex to do this, so that I could use a thinner sheet of perspex, which you can see here. This is only I think it's 5mm piece of perspex, which was what I needed in order to make these connections airtight through the perspex shield. There may be other ways to do it. You could, if you have somebody that's got some sort of a connector, you could put these cables straight through using standard wiring clamps, and I'll show you some of those that I used on the back as an alternative method for getting these cables through. The difficulty with that is once they are put in, then you have to have a dedicated cable just for the panel. You can't then take these cables back out very easily if you use a clamp method. These I can take off and put on as I need them. And you can see that in this case we need 3. You may need more. If you need more, you may need more space than just the circular hole that I used. You may have to cut out a bigger piece in order to do that. And again, I use the purling tape to seal this so that it's an airtight seal. The other thing that needs to go in, obviously for the robot, is the point where the compressed air goes in, which enters the robot at the end there. And that compressed air obviously has to get through. Again, you could possibly use one of the electrical cable conduit airtight seals, but I chose a slightly different method. again using purling tape, and I actually attached one of these regulators to the outside so that we could actually regulate the air pressure going in, and we can just disconnect this quite easily by just removing this quick fit joint here, and that seems to work pretty well for what we need, and again it is airtight. So I'll now move on to what I did around the back to modify some of the ports for fluidics and some of the other electronic connections that need to come out